Hello, everybody. Today, I will be going over the 3 different Celebration Station animatronic bands present at locations. To give you a little bit of background, Celebration Station is your run-of-the-mill family fun center. They had batting cages, bumper boats, laser tag, and more. They also had the animatronic entertainers up until the year 2016, when the last location finally retired the band and put it on display. Let's go back in time. The first location opened up in Rockford, Illinois on September 17, 1982. It didn't have the bumper boats or batting cages as it was a simple Chuck E. Cheese clone back then, just having an arcade, restaurant, and the Pantone show. It featured Harry Hound, Howard LeTrick, Priscilla Purr, Big Bear, Doc the Fox, and Major Moose. Together, they played for Woof Radio, with Major being the news forecaster and Harry being the radio station DJ. There were 4 sets produced for Celebration Station. They were featured at the first 4 locations, being Rockford, Bensalem, Springfield, and Merrillville. Rockford's show is currently unknown, and same with Bensalem's. Springfield's was purchased by Mark's, which is known for their grocery store, and owning Mark's Fun Time, which had those cyberamic retrofits. They intended to use the Pantones in one of their stores, but we don't know if that ever came into fruition. Merrillville, which is a unique store as it had 2 floors and later replaced Big Bear with Putnam and rethemed the show to be more Western and have a saloon set, was sent to a water park where they rotted. An interesting thing to note is that they had art posters of all Woof characters and Daniel, so it can be safely assumed that they used Daniel as the mascot too, as well as Harry Hound. Up next is the most iconic and well-known one, Daniel and the Dixie Diggers, produced by Sally Dark Rides of Jacksonville. They had produced 12 shows, counting the Rockin' Rascals, for Celebration Station. Instead of the quintet variant, they opted in for a custom trio one, featuring Colonel Beauregard, Scratchmo, Daniel T. Bones, and Jethro P. Hogg. A sideshow character would sometimes play with the main trio. This band was there for when Celebration Station really took off. To go into more detail, the first location that had them was the Oklahoma City location. They were then removed in 2012, but Jethro was removed earlier because he was falling apart. The Dixies trio stayed. This show is currently unknown. Up next is Charlotte, North Carolina. This location had the Dixies wearing a different style of jackets with inner lines. The show was dismantled and destroyed, with parts showing up on eBay. I own parts from this set, and I also used to own the head frame for the Daniel, but have since then given it to a friend. Up next is Greensboro, North Carolina. Nothing is too noteworthy about this set, but when the show was retired around 2008, they were put on display with the show's original backdrops. Jethro, however, wasn't seen anywhere. In 2020, the location would undergo a remodel and the bots will be taken down and go missing. Where did they go? I don't have any confirmation, but some person claimed they saw them in a trailer and are now in the hands of the old owner. Up next is Austin, Texas. This location would start reversing the setup of the Dixies, having Jethro on Daniel's side rather than the Colonel's side. The show was then sent to the Clearwater location to be used for parts for all stores at the time. Colonel Beauregard and Jethro were dismantled, and Scratchmo was beheaded. Daniel is the only one who has remained intact, and I own the remains for this set. Up next is South Houston, Texas, a location that became Zuma Fun Center. I don't have the opening date for the store, and there's nothing really to write home about it. The show is currently unknown. Next is Metairie, Louisiana. Another show that doesn't feature anything too crazy, but it's safe to say that this set is one of the most early documentations of the show, thanks to ShowbizPizza.com. The show is currently unknown. Next is North Houston, Texas. This one featured a flip setup like Austin. The show is currently unknown, but Colonel was seen outside a thrift store known as Shortcut Resale and More at one point before going missing. Next is Mesquite, Texas. This location would also feature a flip setup, having Jethro on Daniel's side. It's the most known one because Gabe went and recorded a show of them performing Yonder and Mrs. Murphy's Chowder. The show was retired in the late 2000s, much like Greensboro, and Colonel Beauregard, Scratchmo, and Jethro can be found on display above the arcade still to this day. Daniel was left on the ground near the former showroom before getting removed. He was then dismantled and his piano thrown out. The next location is Clearwater, Florida. This location used to be a regular golf course before being bought by Celebration Station and then converted to one. This location kept the show on the ground up until 2016, where they then removed it and ledged the show with Daniel. The audio we have for the exclusive tapes that Celebration Station played on their Dixies is from this location. Here's a photo of what their CD looks like, now owned by me. The location's backdrops were also trashed. Up next is Tulsa, Oklahoma. This show had the reverse setup with no known pictures of the Jethro. The show was put up in an auction and then was purchased. Then the set somehow made it back to Sally, along with Jethro being pawned on eBay, according to Gabe. The set was then sold to Family Kingdom in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, before getting destroyed by a hurricane. The last location to have the Dixies was Memphis, Tennessee. This set is the least documented set, as many people don't even recall them being there, period, insisting that they were removed early. All we have of this set is a photo of Daniel. As you can see, he has floppy ears, which is pretty interesting. Moving on to the last show, we have the Rockin' Rascals. This set was the last trio built for Celebration Station, but retrofitted. It reused characters from the Wolf show, such as Priscilla Purr and Major Moose. It also featured new characters such as Calvin on the trumpet and Hurricane Hound. They played songs such as Quarter to Three, Rock Around the Clock, and Celebration. Knoxville was also bought out by Zuma, and I have been trying to search for the fate of this set. And here's what I found. Sadly, workers agreed that the show was the last priority of the place, as Zuma Corporate wanted it gone. They were then dismantled, with their heads kept in the back room, which is still missing to this day. Some other locations, such as Baton Rouge and Tampa, never had animatronics. The Tampa location featured a live show type system where Harry Hound the walk-around would come out, talk over music, and dance with the kids. I hope you enjoyed this retrospective, and hopefully in the future, more shows can be found. Special thank you to Zuma Fun Center officials and Celebration Station officials for information used in this video, and thanks to the people credited in this video for footage and photos.